Taiwan. They were gonna do it in spring.
Yeah.
Russia messed it up.
Oh,
They
my.
actually admitted it.
They admitted it. Well, we're not gonna do anything about it, so
No.
might as well.
I think special forces could fix this deal for us, but
Yeah.
they're not going to.
All right, we'll get started. We're not really sure where we left off. I know we covered these verses. Subdue and have dominion, which was the environmentalist argument that we're just all a bunch of losers, if you will, trying to destroy the planet, think that we own it for our own thing. They cry out that nature has got rights, that the land has rights, and we need to be considerate of Mother Earth. All right? They're correct. We should consider environmental concerns. We should not destroy planet Earth. But now I'm going to ask you a question. How much pollution do you think is going on right now over in Ukraine?
Yeah.
With all of the rockets and everything flying, the bombs, all of that. So, again, we're mainly concerned in the United States. If you've been watching all of the news and stuff, our mainest concern is that we're going to lose focus on the Green New Deal. We're not worried about the people over there. We're not worried about the common people here in the United States having to suck up more of their pay for food and gas and all that stuff. We are concerned with the environment. The environment should be our #1 goal. All right? God didn't give man the authority to degrade or destroy the earth. He's not responsible for the destruction of the natural world. We live in a fallen world. It's a sinful place. And because of that, sin takes its toll. Okay? Sin takes its toll. Did anybody remember? Did we talk about Obama? I think this is about where we got to.
Yeah, we
All right? All right. On 2015, Earth Day, Obama proclaimed the following: "Today our planet faces new challenges, but none pose a more greater threat to future generations than climate change."
Oh my goodness.
Out of everything in the world, climate change is the #1 thing that we have to look out for. Your car, Bessie, is putting pollution all over the air. On your truck, man, I don't know what we're going to do about it.
All they got to do is buy 5,000 new electric
Absolutely. Now, also,
Yeah,
you guys remember in one of Obama's speeches when he was talking about gas was up about where it is right now, back in 2015 or so, he said that fossil fuels must naturally be high priced. Otherwise, people are not going to go to alternate fuel.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he did. That's what he said. It is on purpose that we have elevated these prices. Otherwise, Fred, you wouldn't even think about driving an electric car.
You're right. Still don't.
No. A lot of people hate them.
However,
Buy in the service department.
Yeah, that's the ugliest thing. Oh,
However, they're saying now that there's a nickel shortage and they don't have enough nickel to make the batteries.
make
for-
batteries.
And California has now shut down the power grid because there's not enough power to charge all of the electric.
Good.
We've got this thing that environmentalists, now, and again, I'm going to speak from bias, environmentalists are so narrow-minded that they see the vehicles that we drive as the only polluter of Earth, all right, of the atmosphere. They fail to mention all of the volcanoes that are going off, and on and on and on it goes. The current administration actually believes, now you've got to believe me when I tell you, they actually believe that they can save planet Earth by buying oil from foreign people rather than drilling it here. They believe that.
Obviously, they do, they buy it.
Yeah.
The oil and gas and stuff we get from Russia and those different countries
Dirty.
is filthy.
Yeah.
America has the
Dirty oil.
cleanest gas environmental
Yes.
situation, but yet they will pump all that stuff here, and we have to use it.
Plus burn fuel to get it here, and on it goes. but they're blindsided. They've got these blinders on, and all they see is this little narrow corridor. If Americans would not drive your automobiles, we could save planet Earth. All right, simply not true. It's not true. All right, my opinion, I really do think this man truly believes this. I believe that Obama believes that with all of his heart. He is the instigator. If you go back, he is the one. Who was his vice president? Remember? No, it was a guy named Gore.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a guy named Gore who's got several private jets and big, big mansions that he lives in, and about 3 or 4 of them, and he keeps them all cooled and heated and all that stuff. And he gets in these private jets and jets all over the world telling you how evil you are for driving your car 20 miles a day.
Yeah.
All right? So that's where we're at. All right? And I believe with all of my heart that they actually believe this. They have been brainwashed into the thought that if you will quit driving your car, I'm not going to quit driving mine, but if you quit driving yours, we're going to heal the earth. Okay?
They don't quit using the airplanes and jets.
Isn't that a socialistic attitude?
It is.
They believe if we do what he wants us to do, that they'll get rich.
And again, the money's there, all right? If we forget about ISIS and Russia and China and the entire Middle East problem that's going on, now that's when this was written, back in 215. It says $20 trillion that we're in debt. We just forget all of that, and we just start driving electric cars, everything's going to get better.
Yeah.
Everything's going to get better. All right, if you don't believe this, you're a climate denier. Bessie, we're going to put a big red D on your forehead, denier.
They're
You know
not
how
gonna
long
change
those-
the climate anyway, because
How
God's
long
in
those
control.
batteries?
Amen. That's what I felt.
About 3 years,
I heard 4.
like 3 to
And
4.
there's
Yeah.
no.
There's no repairing them.
Yeah.
So you've got all of these contaminated batteries. They're going to have to go somewhere, and everything made out of
$10,000
it is
apiece?
deadly.
Yeah, they're expensive.
If you
Yeah.
replace one, yeah.
All right. In speech in March 2015, Al Gore said the following, and I quote, "Climate deniers should be punished politically and economically." Now, I think we didn't speak of that. Politically and economically. Well, they're doing it economically.
Yes.
And they're doing that by exaggerating the price of gas at the pump. Now, today, if you've been listening to anything out there today, the price of gasoline has stayed up here, and the cost of oil is now down. It's down below $100.
Yeah.
And the evil oil companies are price gouging you. Okay? And get ready for this. But if you drove an electric car, no, seriously, if you drove an electric car, that wouldn't be happening. So we get into this idea that we can solve all the problems. What we have done, history will prove this out. When you fix this problem, you create a bigger one over here that you got to take care of. We need to go back to driving chariots and that sort of thing.
Oh, no, stay in this gas, gas that hurts the ozone. We can't have horses or cows.
Well, there you go.
We're just sunk.
Maybe the jacked the price of CNG.
Yeah.
It jumped up $1 the other day.
Whoa.
It was $1.59, and now I think it's $2.57.
Wow. Wow.
It's natural gas.
Natural gas.
Wow.
Well, since 1997, nothing that Al Gore has predicted has come true.
That's right.
Nothing.
So
All right.
he's got a original.
Since 1997, the rising global temperatures have been negligible. The oceans have not risen, and we have not burned to a crisp yet.
Right.
All right? In fact, climatologists and roaches are predicting that mini ice age. And again, I know we talked about that, but we're going real quick. Climate religion is growing, and they've got an agenda. If you look at who's pushing these things, there are people who have power, they have money, and they're wanting more power, more money. All right? More power, more money. We talked about this. I'm going to go through this one really, really quick. This Pachuri, who was in charge of the climate at the UN, he's got a big engineering degree in railroad. All right, so we go from there. All right. We talked about the ice sheet. It's actually growing. It's actually growing. All
What's
right?
growing?
The ice sheet.
Ice.
At North and South Pole. They're actually expanding. All right, we talked about this, but this is worth saying again. John Adams, former President of the United States, said facts are stubborn things. Sometimes they get in the way of your dogma. They get in the way of what you're wanting to prove. Facts are there. Follow the science. Guess what the science has showed on the coronavirus? We actually did more harm than good in
Yeah.
everything that we did. Everything we did.
It's coming back.
Yeah. And now it's coming back, a new strain.
Shot number 4.
Need another shot. That's right. Need another shot.
And I'm not going to,
Let's hear it.
because there'll be more.
I read an article, yesterday,
Uh-huh.
all these volcanoes that are going off right now, all the stuff going up in the atmosphere, that it's actually helping to cool it
Cool
down.
it down.
So it didn't hurt me, it's helping.
It's helping. Well, again, we've always been in this cycle of either going into a ice age or going into a
Yeah.
tropic age.
Yeah.
Science will bear that out. Read the science. All right, it's there.
God's gonna do what he wants to do.
He is in control. All right, Obama administration, Attorney General Loretta Lynch.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, we're all the way back. Everything goes back to the Obama administration,
Yeah.
all right? She discussed the idea of actually prosecuting climate deniers.
Oh,
Betsy,
my
your name is at the top of
I
the
don't know what
list.
she has to do with that everything.
All right. All right. God's words, it says after creation, he was pleased. We did read these. It said God made the beasts of the earth after their kind. Everything that he did, he said was good. He said it was good. And God saw all he had made, and behold, it was very good. Back in 131. Everything all together, it was very, very good. And then he rested on the seventh day. He was well pleased with creation. He gave mankind the task of cultivating and protecting the environment. And I don't know any Christian that wants to destroy God's earth. I don't know.
Any farmer that wants to destroy it either.
I know none. I know none. But the ones who think we do are the ones that are sitting in offices in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
with the air conditioners running and the heat running, on and on it goes. But they have no idea what's going on out here in the real world. Now, what really, really sold me on the idea that we are in trouble climate-wise was that there was a young congressman that went up and got in there and began to fight for this Green New Deal, and her name was AOC. Now, let me tell you the height of her knowledge. She knows how to mix a margarita very, very well. That's her qualification. That's it. Doesn't have a college degree. Not sure she's even got a high school degree.
How'd she get in there?
Dummies.
More than like her.
All the bartender patrons.
Absolutely. Free drinks.
All the drugs.
All right. There should be a balance. Do you agree? There needs to be a balance. You have to combine this with the understanding of who is in charge. Underline that. God is in charge. This is a new slide, by the way. God gave us the minerals in the ground to use. He gave us the oil in the ground to use. Do you guys remember, it hadn't been that many years ago, that, Tiffy, I lost my TVs. Are you up there?
Yeah.
There they are. They came back.
She went to sleep.
A few years ago, they were seriously talking about we've got to be conservative with our oil because we're going to run out. You remember that? We're going to run out. And there was this big fear. What are we going to do? How are we going to do this? Da, 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 da. And some of you will remember I said at that time, God gave us exactly enough oil to last until Jesus comes and takes over.
Yeah.
Amen.
And with that in mind, we began to explore more. We began to drill more. And we have
Real
now
different too.
different, cleaner. We are now to the point that they say the reserves that we know about in the United States, we've got enough oil to completely furnish the world for 100 years.
Wow.
That's just what we know about.
So
All right?
why is this idiot, I'm sorry,
That's him.
What, yeah, you know who I'm talking
Yeah.
about, okay. Why is he wanting to go to either Iran or wherever else it was?
When the devil twists your mind and blinds you,
And pays you.
well, I won't even go that far. I mean, I really, truly, honestly believe that the man thinks he's doing the right thing. I really do. I
Is
think
that far
He's still-
gone?
Yeah.
Him and his son still making money.
Still making big bucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, well, God gave us these minerals, and sometimes you make a mess trying to get them out.
Yeah.
All right? Honest fact. It's okay for Russia to dig these big holes and get the lithium out. It's okay for Ukraine. By the way, we found out during this whole thing that we have got experiments, medical experiments going on in the Ukraine that the United States is paying for. They're afraid of some biological releases because of this war. Biggest mess we've ever seen.
That goes back to Obama too.
That does indeed. And Fauci, he's in there. All right, but we need to make as small a print as possible. How many of you guys have ever watched, there's a lot of shows I watch there on the Discovery Channel, Gold Rush. I love that show. They come in and they move mountains and mountains of dirt, but what you don't see is that the people in charge of that up there, they've got to put that back exactly the way it was whenever they got it. They've got to put it back. If there were rolling hills, they've got to put it back rolling hills. They can't level it out or not. It's got to go back the way it was. And we don't hear any of that, but that's the way it is. The same thing in Oklahoma. Whenever they go and drill a well, there's a regulatory agency that goes out and they inspect those sites, and they have got to be cleaned up at least as clean and normally cleaner than when they started. All right? Those are laws. Now, the people in Washington, they don't realize that. All they see is the old films where Will Rogers was out there and they hit a gusher and the oil just flows everywhere. They're talking about how nasty, dirty, and contaminating they are. It's not that way anymore. They need to get away from Washington and come into the real world. Okay? But we need to be careful. God has given us this world to tend, to use what He gave us, but to be wise and not destroy it. I believe with all of my heart that destroying all of the rainforest down in the Amazon is wrong.
Yes.
There's another show I watch, Swamp Loggers. Anybody ever seen it?
Yep.
Love it. They go in there and they're conservatives. They cut these trees down, and the company that they work for, they replant trees into these areas. When we went to Israel, Israel's got a tree planting effort. We all planted trees when we were there.
Makes me wonder if
What,
I'm still alive.
Me too. Brenda said, not
What,
guaranteed.
what are we supposed to eat?
What are we supposed to eat?
Yeah,
Anything you want.
yeah, beef.
No, you can't have beef.
Yeah.
You're supposed to eat plants.
My son on his ranch is trying to train his cattle not to poop anymore.
But they don't even realize that they're making the price of fuel so high that truckers can't bring our food to us.
And
The
again,
farmers can't produce it.
yes, and on it goes. Everything that we do has consequence.
Yes.
It's a domino effect. It has consequences as we go. Most of us in this room, I can dare say all of us in this room, we're not mining coal or pumping oil out of the areas that God gave us to be responsible for. All right, I have a garden. I tend and keep the garden. I've got to go out there and pull weeds, thanks to Adam. All right, otherwise I could have just went out there and picked the produce. But I got to keep it up. I've got to till it. I've got to maintain it. I got to make sure that it doesn't wash away. On and on it goes. So most Christians that I know are very good stewards of the land. They respect what God has given them. We need to use our common sense, but as we've discussed right here in this group, common sense is not near as common as it used to be. Okay? Just not there. Don't think for a minute that if you drive an electric car, you're personally saving planet Earth. You're not. It's worse than the gasoline.
That's right.
It is, and seriously, they did some figuring up here about how much damage was done to get the lithium and the nickel and all of the things that are going into this thing. And again, it's all being done over there, overseas. And so if it's over there for some reason, it's okay. They don't realize that this planet we live on is a ball that keeps revolving, and all of the pollution they have there eventually works its way around
Yeah.
here. We're discounting that because we don't want to plan with that. We don't want to work with that. All right, now, this is something that I wrote down. This is a quote. I'm not against innovation progress, but an electric car, for example, still has to be charged. Now, I agree with that.
Yeah.
So I put it in there. Most likely, it's going to be charged with a generator that uses fossil fuels. Now, I want to tell you that every time you take 1 BTU of fossil fuel and you convert it into electricity, there is a net loss. You cannot create energy. Every time you change it from one form to another, you lose anywhere from 20 to 50% of the energy that was available there. That's a fact, all right? Because there were 80% of the world's energy comes from fossil fuels.
Yeah.
Now, if they want to do something, then we need to get ready and we need to start building some thermonuclear reactors. Now, some of you are going, whoa, whoa, whoa. The most clean fuel
That's right.
in the entire universe, our sun uses a
Yeah.
thermonuclear reaction
Yeah.
to heat us up. But here's the thing. Where do you want
Yeah.
a nuclear reactor?
Gotta be on a river or.
We want it, here's where we want it. We want it where nobody's going to build. So where do they build them? They build them out on the fault lines
Yeah.
because you don't want to build a house there because the shaking is liable to shake your house down. So let's build a thermonuclear device out there.
It'd be stupid to do that.
Very crazy, isn't it? So
Holding a lit match close to the dynamite?
that's just like that. Wile E. Coyote lighting it up to see
Yeah.
where it goes.
Exactly.
It is very, very clear. France has got nuclear power plants all over the place. 90% of their energy is created by thermonuclear power plants. They don't have the problems. Why? Because they don't have any fault lines there. All right? They don't build them on the fault line. They might build one in your backyard. And I say that lucratively.
Well, there were ones at the Olympics, right there where they were doing all their stuff.
There's
We
quite
did
a
have
few,
one.
there are quite a few of them in the United States.
There
Yeah.
are, but they don't advertise them.
That's right.
We were due to have one in Oklahoma, by Tulsa.
Black Fox.
The Black Fox.
I was there.
And I know it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a friend of mine was the engineer in charge of building that plant. He said that they're just gonna run along, and all of a sudden they come in and they said,
Shut her
it's
down.
over.
And the riot patrol had to
He
go up
was
there.
a classmate of ours and he ended up killing himself.
You know, Robert Dole is still alive.
Well,
Spent 2
But
days.
that, Von Conrad is gone.
Yeah, but Robert, he was the chief engineer on that site for construction company in Kansas City.
All right, so do we know why it didn't get built?
Yep.
He didn't say-
Protesters.
Protesters, they were
Threats.
protesting it. And they were kind of funded by the big OG&E power plant that's up there as well. They didn't want that competition.
Yeah.
All
That's
right,
sad.
that was the big talk. When I was in Inola, they still talking about how they got beat out of there. All right? Do you know that by the time electric cars assembled, it has been responsible for 30,000 pounds
Wow.
of carbon dioxide being emitted. 30,000 pounds of carbon dioxide emitted into the air. So the amount for making a conventional car is 14,000 pounds. Okay? So to overcome the deficit, you would need to drive an electric car, it's misspelled there, 80 to 90,000 miles, which so far has never been done. Okay? On the average, they're being driven about 50,000 miles. That's all the mileage you can get out of one of these batteries. Okay? All right. So let's say the technology continues to improve, and you can drive the electric car for 100,000 miles.
That's just
In
2
this-
years.
Huh?
That's just 2 years for a normal person.
Yeah, well, a few more than 2. But If you did, you would achieve 24% less carbon dioxide emissions than its gas-powered cousins. So over a lifetime of the electric car, this came out of a science magazine, by the way, it's about 8.7 tons of carbon dioxide less than a conventional car.
Same thing was on Facebook yesterday.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. That is $44 in climate damage. You can buy these carbon credits and whatever, $44.
Wow.
Okay, that's what those credits would cost for that much. Now, based on the current charges, that's for 8.7 tons of carbon dioxide. Our federal government subsidizes electric car buyers in the amount of about $7,500. Well, why didn't we say so sooner? I'm going to go buy one tomorrow.
Yeah, right.
All right. In return, you only get $44 worth of emissions. The government's giving you $7,500 to save $44 worth of carbon.
That's our government.
That's the government, isn't it? Now, I threw this in here. I'm not against electric cars in principle. I could never drive one because it takes too far to get me anywhere I go.
Exactly.
But you can't worship the electric car altar.
Right.
Why can't we have them both?
Well, you can. But you're not gonna adapt quickly enough.
Dick, in regards to electricity, people don't realize that those turbines that are running over here in OG&E, you can never shut them off.
No.
If you shut them off and we lose power, then it's lost
Yep.
for a long time. But
Yep.
they run 24 hours a day,
Those windmill things?
whether a windmill runs or not.
Now, the old
If the windmills turn on, they still gotta run that turbine.
Well, I used to take the kids every year. In the spring, we went down to Anadarko and toured the plant down there.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
And their grids, they are forced by federal regulations to buy all of the wind-powered energy that they will pump in there. Now, you'd think that that would save you money, but like you said, their turbines, all of them,
Always.
have got to run full throttle, just like they're generating, even though they're not,
Right.
because you never know when one of them is liable to break down or the wind quits blowing.
Yeah.
And they said it took up to 3 days to get those back up to temperature, the steam and all that stuff, in order to get generated. So they, by law, have got to keep those things running. Now, where's the savings in that?
Right.
There is none.
You know,
If any of this made sense.
wind towers, they don't run all the time, because if they make so much, the landowner gets a bonus. And they don't want to pay the bonus to the landowner. So that's the reason why that computer shuts them down.
15%.
If any of this made sense, it'd be okay, but none of it makes any sense.
Nothing.
What is it, OG&E, if you, they kept putting that deal in their, bills, that if you wanted wind power electricity, there was a 25% upcharge.
Yeah, and you can say, yeah, I want that.
Yeah.
But also,
Hello.
at Minko and west of Minko, all those windmills are not owned by OG&E, CK, and anything here. They're all owned by the power country and
Florida.
company in Florida.
Yeah.
And every year they've got a new name so they can get
Get new
more
subsidies.
subsidies.
Yeah, more subsidies.
Exactly.
All right, the American consulate in Benghazi, remember that?
Yep.
They asked repeatedly for additional security, and it was denied every time. You guys remember, it hadn't been that long ago.
Clinton,
All right, at the same time, the American embassy in Vienna, at the same time, they were given $108,000 to put in charging stations for electric cars. Same time frame. We can't afford more security because we're spending money on charging stations for electric cars.
They hate soldiers too.
Yep. All right, so we're not saving the planet. We're not saving ourselves either spiritually.
Right.
And we need to begin to stand up for the standard that God has given us. We love planet Earth because God created it. We're not intentionally going to destroy it in any way, shape, or form. but at the same time, we don't worship it. We don't worship it. God does the saving, not us. Physically, we have to have a balance in our approach. We need to understand that. I'm going to tell you right now, if there was really a crunch around, it would not be popular. But if you guys remember then President Nixon, we dropped the speed limit on the highways down to 55.
Yeah.
And it saved a lot of gas.
Mhm.
If there was truly a shortage, we would be down there. But we've got a mamby-pamby president that doesn't want to be unpopular. Too late.
But,
Too late.
Yeah.
but you'll notice a lot of people, even though speed limit is 75, they've self-imposed a lower speed limit for the better gas mileage, since the price is so high.
Well, again, I've got the choice. I can drive slower, and I do.
Yeah.
And I do. Somebody turn to Leviticus 25:23. What we need to understand is that God is in control.
Yes.
It was warm, it was cold, it was calm, now it's windy. Who does all that? Leviticus 25, verse 23.
And the land shall not be sold in perpetuity, for the land is mine, for ye are strangers and sojourners with me.
Who is mine and who is me? Those are capital letters. Who are they? Who is that?
God is mine, is me.
That's God. This is Israel to the Jews. He said, you can't sell something that doesn't belong to you.
There you go.
It's mine. You need to remember that. We tend it, we keep it, but it belongs to God. Always has, always will. A few years ago, we had a hurricane named Sandy on the East Coast. You guys remember that? All right, New York City mayor at the time, Michael Bloomberg, essentially blamed climate change for this hurricane. All right, then and the city council instituted some changes, get this, to prevent a future Hurricane Sandy.
Good Lord.
Yeah. This deadly storm took 100 lives, and that's very sad. Most of them drowned. But the deadliest hurricane in U.S. history was back in 1900 in Galveston, Texas. All right, Bessie, you remember that one? All right. It was the deadliest natural disaster ever to strike the United States. 12,000 people died.
Man.
Wow.
Horrible devastation, loss of life, but not to belittle it or demean it in any way. No one wrote an article saying that methane from cows did it. Or if we only had electric wagons, things would have been different. We live in a world where everybody takes advantage of everything they can. Climate has always been changing and always will. From 250 BC to 400 AD, we had the Roman optimum, a warm period that researchers say was in a degree of current summer mean temperatures. It was mild enough for Hannibal at that time to take elephants over the Alps. We've all heard those history lessons. Well, the Alps were normally covered in snow. It was warm enough, the snow melted. Are they still bare today?
I watched the program on Channel 13 not too long ago about Hannibal and his elephants, and they were still saying that there was too much snow and cold to take the elephants across there.
How'd they get there?
They said all of the elephants died. Is what the program said.
Well, history tells a different story.
Yeah.
Yeah. History tells a different story. All right, then there was the medieval warm period from 950 AD to 1250 AD, and that was followed by a little ice age that lasted until 1850. You guys watch the weather. They have got to where they put up the record lows and record highs. Yeah. We're not as hot as we've been in the past.
No.
Go back about 100 years and it was hot and it was really cold. All right? So extremes come and they go. So during that time, Swedish armies could march to Denmark without ever getting their feet wet. The seas had dried up that far. But what if Satan could tell the story that drilling in the Gulf of Mexico caused the seas to rise and it spawned Hurricane Katrina. You remember that hurricane?
He did.
And that, kind of what we got? It's
Mhm.
all a climate change. Was it stupid to build New Orleans in a marsh?
No kidding.
Yes.
Was it stupid to rebuild it in the same marsh? Yeah.
Below
My
sea level.
brother-in-law called it a frog pond.
Again, if you've ever been there, that's what it smells like, is an old frog pond.
Below sea level.
All right, now this
Yeah.
same government who engineered the idea that it's good to build below sea level, they deliver your mail sometimes.
Yeah.
All right? It was all George Bush's fault when that happened. Remember? If only Al Gore had been elected president instead of him, it wouldn't have ever happened.
Yeah.
That's what these climatologists sometimes want us to believe. Where's God in all of this? During the Katrina disaster, a few religious commentators like Hal Lindsey, Charles Colson, Pat Robinson, and others made some general comments about God's judgment, and did they ever get jumped on by the media?
Sure.
We don't want to hear that there even is a God, all right? The media insists that there is no God, and man, meaning mostly conservatives, have caused these disasters. Proverbs 34. Proverbs 34. We're going to finish this up. We're not very far from being done. 34.
Who has gone up to heaven and come down? Whose hands have gathered up the wind? Who has wrapped up the waters in a cloak? Who has established all the ends of the earth? What is his name, and what is the name of his son? Surely you know.
All right, so we know God and Jesus. Go back and read John 1:1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. All right? Over there, President Obama, as he accepted the Democratic nomination in 2008, said, generations from now, we're going to be able to look back and tell our children that this is the moment when the rise of the oceans began to slow and our planet began to heal. I feel better already.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gore probably wrote that speech for him.
Somebody look up Romans 1:20 if we could, please. That everyone should be able to look at creation and know that there is a creator. And the natural progression would be to worship that creator and to follow his commandments. But the world at large denies that there is a God. Romans 1:20.
For since the creation of the world, God's invisible,
Attributes.
his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so the people are without excuse.
Unless they want to be.
Yeah.
That they worship the creation, Mother Earth, instead of the Creator, and they establish their own morals, their own code of conduct, and this leads inevitably to Satan.
Mhm.
If you start with wrong principles, you end up in the wrong place. A wrong place. In Job 38:39, God is asking this great builder a series of questions. And these questions show very clearly the huge chasm that exists between the capabilities of man and those of God. And we're not going to read all of those, but if you go back in there and read, it's God asking Job, really, well, where were you when I
Yeah.
created the earth? Where were you when I set the boundaries for the sea? Where were you when I separated the water? And that's what that's all about. I've got them in there, so we're not going to go in there. Now, think of these things in light of Obama's claim that he will stop the rise of the oceans. All right, and think about how feeble the assertion of Bloomberg was that climate change played any role in Hurricane Sandy. Let me tell you where that all came about. It came about because God's grace was lifted off planet Earth, off the United States in particular, when we reject him. I dare say that Job was a far greater man in respect than Obama or Bloomberg, either one.
Yep.
All right? Could they answer the questions from God any better than Job? Job was dumbfounded. He had no answer. Had no answer whatsoever. While recently driving to my job, I heard a radio program saying that they had discovered a planet very much like Earth orbiting the nearest star to our solar system. This would be Proxima Centauri. All right? They're calling this planet Proxima b. It appears to astronomers to have similar conditions to planet Earth. Good news. They think it may have liquid water. Better news. How they know this? I don't know, this author says, but they want to have an interstellar mission to send a spacecraft to this planet.
With Obama in it.
Listen to this. As he was listening, this guy says, I was listening, I thought, well, that sounds reasonable. Sounds reasonable. It's 4.24 light years away. And he thought to himself, how far can that be? So he looked it up. It says, we have had previous deep space missions, and they're still out there, and they can achieve speeds of up to 35,000 miles per hour, and using this propulsion drive. And he said, he goes on and says, at 35,000 miles per hour, how long would it take to reach Proxima B, a mere 81,000 years?
Yeah.
All right, and we think we can control the
And
weather.
how can they see that?
All right, we do have some control over the weather. Leviticus 26, 1 through 4. You shall not make for yourself any idols, nor will you set up yourselves any image or a sacred pillar, nor shall you place a figured stone in your land and bow down to it, for I am the Lord your God. You shall keep my Sabbaths and reverence my sanctuary, for I am the Lord. If you walk in my statutes and keep my commandments, so as to carry them out, then I shall give you rains in their seasons, so that the land will yield its produce, and the trees of the field will bear their fruit. God says, if you do what I tell you to do, I'll bless you. That's what he said. It's a very simple promise. We need to obey it. We don't have to worry about it. Okay? Our future, does it hold electric cars for us? It may for you, but it doesn't for me. I don't have $65,000 to buy an electric car.
No.
Sorry, not going to happen. All right? If we don't, God may punish us in ways that we've never understood before. He controls the weather. Timothy 6, 20 and 21 says, Timothy, guard what's been entrusted to you. Avoid worldly and empty chatter as the opposing arguments of what is falsely called knowledge. Paul, way back then, says, man, they're going to tell you all sorts of stuff. They don't have any knowledge. God's got it all. Some have profaned and thus gone astray from the faith in God.
Wow.
I want to tell you, the Bible tells us that God's in control of all things.
Yeah.
The Bible tells us that God is in control of who's elected leaders of a nation. He's in control of who wins wars and who does not. But he does some things to get his people's attention turned back to him.
Yes.
We need to be praying for the love of God to once again come into America. That the American people begin to worship God and seek him for answers instead of the government. There we are.
Well done.
All right, well, that's from about 4 different sources. I can't tell you what we're going to do next, but we'll do something different. But, I did want to finish that tonight.
Everybody needs to read the Harbinger.
They do.
Read what?
The Harbinger.
I'm not done with it, but
Yeah, look, I think there's a copy of it back in there.
There's 3 of them in there.
Katie?
well, I'm just
How long have they been building those electric cars?
Probably about the last 10 years.
Yeah.
They've been around a while.
That's what I found out here a while back. There was, one of the boys up at Cabin brought one in. It's a Tesla. And it looked like a fairly new car, but it was, 2015.
Yeah, they've been building quite a while.
Yeah.
Oklahoma is buying 1,000 of them with your tax dollars.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, they ordered them.
They ordered them.
Without a competitive bid, I might add.
Yeah, and they're gonna have to build them in Oklahoma. They don't wanna buy them in Arkansas.
They may have to buy some, it said.
Yeah.
Because they can't produce it.
All right, well, guys, I kept you overtime. Hey, we got caramel popcorn, we got butter popcorn. So help yourself back there. Let's close out with a word of prayer. And again, if you go to the Wilson site, they will put up when the viewing of Barbara will be.
It's on there already.
Oh, is it?
Well, the obituary's there.
Got an obituary, yeah.
Yeah, but no hours, no viewing time.
No
Oh,
time.
oh.
So, again, but they will have it when the family decides.
I haven't decided yet.
Evidently not. So, again, I visited with Kennedy yesterday, and she said, quick as they give me a time, Dick, I'll call you and let you know, let your people know. So, we'll go from there.
We have an electric car.
How long
He
ago?
was a guy that used to, live on he had this old car, he brought out to the Miles Restaurant, and he had about 8 or 10 batteries in it.
Probably a golf cart.
No, it was a car.
Oh, that was.
There is more than one battery
That
in an
was,
electric car.
Artie Clayton,
Yeah.
and he built stuff all the time.
It's something he built.
He was a genius,
Yes.
but he built it on his own.
He had the prettiest blue velvet seat covers and
Yeah,
everything you
yeah.
ever saw.
He
But all
even-
these batteries.
He even
in
built
it.
a steam car one time
Yeah.
too.
Restored it.
Let's go, Lord, in prayer.
That's
Father,
what we need.
in the name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, Lord, we ask you to forgive us for, Lord, believing the lies that Satan has put into the minds of good people. Father, we don't think they're bad, we just think they're misguided. And we ask, Father, that you open their eyes to the truth. Lord, again, help us to be good stewards of your land, this land you allow us to dwell in. And Father, may we turn to you for the answers instead of the government. Father, in Jesus' name.